Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today in September, school is in session. We talked a little bit before about how as a parent you need to be a partner in your child's education. That piece was on how to work with the schools. Now we're going to talk about what you need to do at home to accomplish the goals for your child's education. My guest is our family and relationships expert, Alvean Lyons. Welcome back.
Hi, Robin.
Now, I think that schooling should happen at school, and at home we should get to have fun, right?
Wouldn't that be fantastic? Like if we could arrange that to happen in some way, that would just be fantastic. Unfortunately, that's not how it works.
It isn't.
Yes.
Okay, so we have homework.
We do.
Our kids have homework.
We do.
How do we do that? Now, you talked last time about the A, B, and C's of getting involved in school.
Absolutely. So we're going to go with D, E, and F. So let's just give them a quick recap. So our ABCs were, we need to ask questions when we're at school, we need to be present, and we need to make sure that there's current contact information so that we're building that bridge for partnership.
So we can communicate.
We've got to make sure that we're communicating because nothing happens without communication.
Right. So the teacher is now doing his or her part at school.
Absolutely.
But they got to come home and you have to continue.
And then it's our part.
Okay.
Like our full-time part. And the reality is they spend more time with us than they do with their teachers. So we have a big responsibility as parents.
That's true.
So we shift into D, E, and F. D, we have to decide on what our goals are. One of the things that happens, and I've said this many, many times, that when we don't have a plan, we end up with a default plan, and that's a plan to fail. When you start your year, you've got to figure out what are your goals. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want your kids to accomplish? What do your kids want to accomplish? Because there's a difference between what we think we want versus what our kids want. And the reality is, if they haven't bought in, it does not even matter what we want, because they're the ones who have to go through the process. They're the ones who have to remember to do the homework. They're the ones who have to be committed to doing the studying, paying attention during class. No matter how much fantastic parenting we do, we don't go to school for them, and we don't go to school with them. So we have to make sure that they're a part of this process when we're establishing what is this year going to look like? What are we trying to accomplish? Is our goal honor roll? Is our goal to just pass our SOLs? Or is our goal advanced placement where things are concerned? What are we trying to achieve? And once we've set that, it makes it so much easier to pursue it. But it's no different than going on a trip. If we haven't decided where we're going, it doesn't matter how long we drive. We'll never arrive anywhere in particular. So our first job as parents at home is we've got to decide on what our goal is.
But what you're saying is we have to consult the kids. We plan the trip and we do the drive-in. This is hard, because I think parents and kids' goals might not always align, because I think parents always want honor roll, always want the advanced SOL pass, always want their kids to achieve at the top level. So how do you either have this discussion and listen to your kid or get your kid to see that's
get on board,
yeah.
Right. And we want them to get on board. But the truth is that we really have to consider what it is that they're serious about. Because, for instance, I have a soon-to-be 13-year-old. And in my whole life, I've always thought, okay, he'd make a great architect because he loves to draw, he loves to do this, he loves to do that. Well, architecture is heavy math, but he's not in love with math. So my vision for his life versus what it is that he actually wants to do and is inclined towards doing may not align. But when it comes to other things like robotics, and he loves Legos, so despite the fact that he's practically a teenager, he could build virtually anything.
That's how robotics starts, with those Lego kits.
It's exactly right.
It really is.
But if he understands that in order to do what you love, not what mommy loves, not what daddy loves, but to do what you love, that is going to require that you're a very good math student. There's a different level of motivation that comes from internal information versus external. So if I'm motivated by my own dream, my own passion for my life, and then you as the parent, we got to be smart, figure out how to align my dream with what it is that I'm going to need to know in order to live my dream out. I have a different reason to do a better job. But if you're just telling me what it is that I need to do, and I can't even see how it fits into what I want to do, it's very hard to get buy-in with a child virtually at any age, because it isn't long before they have their own opinions and they have their own wants. when they hit school. So even when we're talking about our elementary students, yeah, they want to be a fireman this week. Next week, they want to be a police officer. The week after that, they want to be a doctor. And you're going to have to be flexible with it. But as they move with them. You've got to grow with your kid, and you've got to be able to do the ebbs and flows with them, because really it's going to be their lives at the end of the day. You and I both have college students now for the first time, and you realize that all of what it is that you want, once you get ready to launch them out into the world, what they want ends up bigfooting what you want. Sooner or later.
They get control at some point. So
Eventually.
You might as well let them have some piece of it as you go.
Along the way.
And in truth, nobody wants to be a failure.
Oh,
so
no.
every kid wants to be a success. You just have to help define what success is for them.
Absolutely.
And you're right, maybe it is different in different subjects. Maybe it is completing everything on time. I mean, whatever those goals are.
It's true. It's very true. And really, all of us want to launch successful children. We all want that. We all want them, and if you know the City of Hampton theme, ready by 21. We all want, by the time they become adults, that they can do this thing and they can do it really well. But it is part of that evolution of letting go of the reins as the time happens. I think once we've talked about the parenting continuum, but really you move from being the supervisor of your child, where you're doing almost the helicopter parenting, you hover a bit because it's about safety. They're so small. They don't know how to make the decisions yet. You're really close to them and sort of looking over their shoulder. But then they hit a point where you kind of have to be the manager, where you're not necessarily right over their shoulder. You've made sure at this point that they've bought in to this process. But at the same time, when they need you, you step in. You have to intervene to make sure that this thing works out well. But then when they become young adults, as ours are now, you move into the consultant in their lives. You are in by invitation only. So if you have not done a good job establishing those connections and a mutual respect, the invites will be few and far between.
Well, and that's an important lesson for parents who, and it doesn't necessarily come naturally with elementary school kids to have these discussions and include them. I mean, I can't say I did it very well. It's parents, you know, kind of want that control.
Right, it's true.
And it becomes an illusion at some point, but you don't realize that
until it's way late.
Yeah,
right. It's true.
So having those discussions, which you continually remind us about.
Absolutely. Because if I can get you to believe in it too, I have half of the work to do. So it's so important that you are, the more you feel like...
You don't have to push as hard if some of that, if the internal push that they
is
have
already there.
Yeah.
But the only way to motivate that is for me as the child to feel like I have some mechanism of control over my life. I mean, when they're 2 years old, they say, I can do it myself. You know, I'll trust myself. Because what every child wants is to be able to be independent. But we want them to be independently successful. So what we need to do is nurture the independence in ways that allow us to have influence without it necessarily being overt control. And there's a difference, because a child who feels like they're being controlled will naturally rebel. But a child who feels like they're being supported will tend to bond with you, because I feel like you are an ally and an advocate in my dreams for my life. So when you critique certain things, you're critiquing because you want to help me become what I want to be, versus you're critiquing because you want me to be what you want me to be. And we know when they become teenagers, that is where a great deal of conflict comes in. We want our kids to feel like we are in support of the most positive you that you can see for yourself. And we want to help you become that. But I have to let you be a part of the conversation in order for that to be possible. So it is very, very true that we have got to make sure that we are mutually deciding on what the goals are. Then when we move from that very big notion, because it is true at every age, when we back it up a little bit to what's going to happen in very practical ways at home, we have to establish ways to support you being able to get the job done daily. And that can be things as simple as setting a schedule. If I know that you've got sports and activities, I know that you have chores, I know that you have homework, I know that you need to study, I know all of those things have to take place, and we have a fixed amount of time to do that, and get to bed at a reasonable time, because sleep is essential to success. The National Sleep Foundation did a study indicating that as adults, we need 7 to 8 hours. As teenagers, they need 9. And as young children, they need 10 to 11. So we need to count back. If they're
Because that helps their brains grow and develop too.
Oh, on
absolutely.
so many levels. And it makes a huge difference in attitude.
Yes.
We're all a different person when we're exhausted. You don't get to meet the best me or the best you when I'm exhausted. It is not any different for our children. We want to make sure they get proper rest, even when they think they don't need it. We need to enforce the fact that that happens. So setting a schedule that makes those things all fit in appropriately is very important. And it's not that you have to be so fixed that every 5 minutes is accounted for, but you need to have a sense of what is our homework time, when is our play time, when is our sports time, when do we need to wind down, get prepped for tomorrow, and get to bed. All of those things need to fit into your evening. So having a schedule makes it a lot easier for all of us to be on the same page about what's going on. And then establish a place where your kids can sit quietly and do their homework. Distractions are a difficult thing. They're in a very overstimulated world at this point. We have to make sure that they are not watching television, playing in social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest for pictures of clothing, whatever it is. We need to back that all up so that they can just be focused on academics for that succinct period of time. So establishing where that's going to be and when that's going to be is very important for them to be successful.
Well, and there are studies too that show if you do something the same way for 30 days or so, it is a habit.
Becomes a habit.
And it becomes easier the next month and the next month if you start from the beginning and kind of stick to something. Not that you can't change it when it needs to be changed,
Absolutely.
different seasons or different classes or whatever, but.
And it's totally okay to tweak. To think that you're going to make a decision once and it's going to stay exactly that way is absolutely disingenuous. We have to be able to grow and adjust with the necessary changes. And that's really, really a good thing to make those adjustments. It shows our own maturity as parents to do that.
Right.
And
that's a good example.
It's true. We need to model what we want for our kids. We cannot ask something of them that we're not willing to do. And kids do what they see you do, not what they hear you say. So when you see your kids behaving in a particular way, we have to ask ourselves as parents the tough question, where did they see that first? And it sometimes means that we've got to change it in ourselves in order to change it in our kids. And it's tough, but that kind of modeling is very effective. And it really does change who they are in very good ways.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that we establish those things.
Okay.
Then F, find time daily to plug in with your kids, both on an academic level and on a social level. If we're going to reduce the incidences of teen violence, bullying, bad behavior, if we want to make sure that our kids know that they are supported, that they are loved, that they are encouraged to be themselves, for them to have the strength to resist some of the peer pressure that they'll be exposed to, they have to know that they're part of our team. And the only way to feel that is for us to actually plug in on a regular basis. We've got to talk about more than what I want you to do, but also who you are. What's going on in your world? Can I listen to you in a non-judgmental way? Can I just find 15 minutes to listen to all the stories about everybody that I, on the inside, could care less about? But clearly, you
they
care
matter
about.
to you, right?
You
right.
care about.
Therefore, they're important.
Exactly. And if you care about it, it is leaving an impression on you in some way or another. So it's important that I know what's influencing your thinking. I can't do that without talking to you on a regular basis. So we've got to find time to plug in on a daily basis with our kids.
Now, you've said before that you do some of that at the dinner table.
Yes.
You have your
Three P's. You almost
pit,
have
peek, and
punch.
punch. Okay, I forget that one.
And the punch is the juicy
Trivia.
stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Whatever's going on socially or emotionally with the kids. It's not necessarily about just your child.
Right.
It's whatever they want to talk about.
Right, because those are the issues that they're facing or seeing, even if it isn't happening in their life at this moment.
And it is shaping them in very small but significant ways. So we want to know what those things are. So yes, we do it at the dinner table. So
you can do some of that at the dinner table, but you should also have some one-on-one time.
Absolutely.
Because a child might not be willing to say that in front of the siblings or whatever, or might talk to one parent better than the other.
Than another. It's true. So it really, you're very right about the fact that we've got to make sure that there's both the collective connection, but there are also the individual connections as well. Because every one of our kids have different personalities. So we want to make sure that no one gets lost in the midst of the family, and it happens more readily than we realize sometimes. So yes, find that time to plug in. And then as a bonus.
Okay, a bonus, good.
G, get support if you need it. We have so many programs, even in the city of Hampton, that can be so helpful. Healthy Families has an enormous array of 1, 2, 3 magic. When your kids are little, establishing those connections, understanding how to do that, create routines in your household, because how you start has a lot to do with how you finish. And then like connecting with your teen, winning without fighting. There are so many different things that they offer. Even for just dads, they have dad programs. I mean, there really are an array of options, but we have to reach out and get them.
Well, and I'm going to say the school age programs, the after school care is a huge boost for working families.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if your kid is maybe in middle school and could technically be home for a little while, it's going to shoot holes in that routine if you're not there to enforce it.
It does.
And, it just is a way to reduce some of the demand on, dinner and evening hours if you can use that after school time to both play and burn off some steam and to start tackling that homework.
Excellent truth.
Have somebody help you do it in the time when you can't.
Yeah, you don't have to do it on your own. And there's nothing wrong with your parenting if you decide that you want to reach out. I mean, like we live in an area with lots of military families. And the one thing that all of my very, very close military girlfriends have always told me is we have to figure out how to build community everywhere and anywhere that we are. We have to totally get past our egos and know that we're going to have to lean on each other on a regular basis. And those are the very people who literally save our lives daily in America. They understand that even with all of that strength, they need each other. So there's nothing wrong with us as parents who don't even have to go stand on the battlefield, that we recognize also that we could totally use each other's support. And if we don't have one another, we have the benefit of programs and support mechanisms that are in our community that are also interested in our success. Hampton is very, very interested in constantly and consistently moving our families forward. So we have to know that it's okay. It's okay, and people want you to be successful.
Good. They want you to be successful. They want your kids to be successful. And there's a little bit of a taxpayer self-interest here, because the more successful kids are, the better jobs they get, the more taxes they pay. And kids who don't do well in school either need more services that are very expensive or can't quite contribute in the way other people can. It makes the community stronger. The more you spend in prevention, the less you spend
in intervention. It's so true. We are in this thing together, and we have to know that it really is okay to lean on one another. And if we do need help, reach out. There is always going to be somebody who wants to help you. You just have to be able to say and just get past that little fear.
That's hard for a lot of people.
Just a little fear.
It really is. I don't know what happens in us that makes it hard for us to admit we need help. Everybody needs help.
It's true.
Not a failure on your part.
At all. Not even a little
success.
bit.
And you're not afraid to ask for help.
I ask for it all the time. And people always think that just because you're an expert in this or you have credentials in that somehow you have it all together. That couldn't be further from the truth.
No,
I could not survive without my very close friends. I could not survive without the benefits and the support that exists within my community. I readily make use of all of the resources, as many as I'm aware of, and always looking for more, because we're never by ourselves as smart as we are together. There's no such thing. And it really is okay. And I say that over and over again because we have to hear it as mommies in particular.
Right.
We always want to be perfect. We have to get it just right. And I don't know who told us that.
Our lives have to look like they looked on Pinterest or Facebook or all those. It's increased the pressure on us, I think.
And that stress never turns out to be anything good. We have to stop putting that unnecessary and undue stress on ourselves. We are good parents, and we could be great parents by recognizing what it is that we may not know and being able to reach out to the necessary help that we may need, support, encouragement to move from being good to being great. And gosh, if you're already a great parent, let's shift to phenomenal. I mean, let the sky be the limit. There is no place that we stop growing as adults. When we stop growing, we stop allowing our kids to grow because we're modeling.
Exactly. And if you're not afraid to ask for help or
Your kids
support,
won't be
your
afraid.
kids will learn that too.
Very true.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right. We're going to test Robin now and see if we can recap
D, E, and F, Robin.
the D, E, and F of parenting partners in education. So we're at home now. This is the one I think might be hardest for some parents. Decide on goals. And that means including the child in the decision.
It's true. You're not losing any control by making them a part of the process. You're actually
it's even
giving
just
them some
remembering to
help.
have the discussion and not assuming
That
my
we're all on the
goals are
same
the same
page.
as yours.
Very true. Very
All
true.
right, so decide on goals, establish a schedule
Absolutely.
to make sure that everything gets covered, that they do get some playtime or some outdoor time or some physical time or their sports or their dance interest or whatever it is gets covered, as well as their
Absolutely.
academics, as well as your needs at home for them to do chores and be
Absolutely.
responsible. D, E, F.
Find time.
Oh, find time to plug
in with your kids.
Some one-on-one time, some carpool listening time, some
Absolutely.
conversation around the dinner table, some whatever you have to patch together to make that time happen. E, F, G, and then G is get support.
Get support
Use
if you
the
need it.
community resources that are available.
And there's
You don't
nothing
have to
wrong
do it all.
if you do.
There's not, especially working parents or single parents.
Absolutely.
It's just physically impossible to
do everything.
do everything if you don't get home until 6 o'clock. So use those resources.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I feel ready. Are you ready?
We can do this together, Robin. We totally
We can do this, and I think you can do it too. So don't forget your ABCs at school and your DEF at home, and work with your child in establishing those goals and reaching what they want out of their education as well as what you want. Thank you.